White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said President Biden's approval rating are so low because people are tired of fighting the coronavirus pandemic, which Biden promised to shut down during the 2020 campaign. Psaki claimed to the reporter that Biden's approval is slipping due to pandemic fatigue, the same pandemic Biden promised on the campaign trail to end. The president's approval fell even further in September after his shouty withdrawal from Afghanistan that resulted in the death of 30 United States service members and left Americans behind despite promises from his administration that wouldn't occur.
We have launched, and we announced the launch last week, or our intention to launch a major campaign to communicate with parents, to communicate with families about the safety and the efficacy of these vaccines should they get approval. We will also be prepared to have the doses needed to ensure that parents can get vaccines to their kids. But what we're really focusing on is working with pediatricians. We know that the pediatricians are one of the most trusted sources of information for any parent. I can confirm that myself. And so we're really encouraging parents to talk to their pediatricians, of course, to wait for approval before they proceed, but to have those conversations, and that will be what our strategy is guided around.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Two questions. One is about the Moscow conference. The United States was not able to participate. What was the reason? Number two, NATO conference, any result? And number three, so many Afghan people, especially women, they are under torture of the Taliban, and they have high expectation from the United States. I don't know, you guys still committed to help Afghan people, or United States totally forget Afghan people?
Absolutely not. On the last piece, we remain absolutely committed to helping the Afghan people. We remain the largest provider of humanitarian assistance of any country in the world, and we're committed to ensuring there is the ability for people who want to leave to depart, ensuring there are flights that can depart to do that, or people can cross over land, and continue to work with reliable international organizations like the World Food Program to provide that assistance. In terms of the NATO conference, I know our Secretary of Defense spoke to that. I'd point you to his comments and his press conference on the ground. And on your first question, I know my colleague at the State Department, Ned Price, said that the United States supported the talks. We were unable to attend for logistical reasons. We believe the Troika Plus, which is what this forum or format is, has been an effective and constructive forum. We look forward to engaging that forum going forward, but we weren't in a position to be a part of it this week, but we will in the future. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to clarify, you've been, earlier at the start of this, you talked about how universal pre-K, family leave, are those things that will definitely be in the bill? Because you're saying no matter what happens, it looks like we'll have at least this much. So I was just wondering, can you clarify, are those things definitely going to be in there? Are those red lines for the president?
I'm not here to set new red lines. What we know is that this is going to be the most historic investment in child care and care in the care economy ever in history, and that there will be programs put in place that have not existed in the past. Hopefully we will know more soon what the final package looks like, but I just wanted to outline some of the key components that there's continued discussion about.
And I noticed you didn't mention Medicare expansion in that. Is that intentional? Why not?
It was not intentional. I was trying to give a couple of examples because sometimes we miss the historic comparison here on what we're talking about and what kind of a dramatic impact this package will have on families across the country and what it's tracking to be. There are still final pieces that need to be concluded, and I can't give you a final fact sheet quite yet, but that's what I wanted to lay out for all of you. It's still on track to be, because there are so many climate components in these two packages that the president has proposed, including climate tax credits and tax cuts, which have been a part of his proposal, has broad support in the Senate. There are also key components, since you gave me the opportunity, that have been in the infrastructure plan that often we don't talk enough about, including moving toward electric vehicles, 500,000 charging stations across the country, which would be a huge impact, have a big impact impact in moving toward an industry that would reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Replacing lead pipes in water. I think many of you may have seen today that the state of Michigan issued a state of emergency because of lead in pipes. This is an area and a place that has a climate impact, that has a humane impact. These are all components that are under discussion, and obviously the infrastructure pieces have passed, but continue to be a part of what the president's proposed. But addressing the climate, making this the largest climate bill in history, we're continue to be on track toward that.
Just lastly, the president last night said he would entertain the notion of doing away with the filibuster to pass voting rights, and then he added, and maybe more. What's the maybe more?
Stay tuned. It's to have a discussion. I expect you'll hear more from the president about it in the coming weeks. Go ahead.
Matt took my climate question, but
that's okay. You can ask it in a different way. Okay.
On immigration, though, the president said yesterday that the administration's stance is that it is opposed to MPP, the Remain in Mexico policy, but there's a court order, and they're implementing that court order right now. But even with that court order addressed a previous memo the administration issued to terminate MPP. It's been months since this court order, and there's still no new memo out.
And
why is that?
Secretary Mayorkas has indicated he plans to issue a new memo, and that we do oppose the MPP program, as the president said last night. I would point you to the Department of Homeland Security on an update on the status.
Given that he is saying the administration is opposed and he's criticized us in the past, it seems like there's not a sense of urgency to get this memo out since it's been months.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think we've been clear about our opposition to this, but again, there was a court order. So what we're working to do is move toward the release of a new memorandum, something that would come from the Department of Homeland Security, and while also abiding in good faith by a court order and following the law.
I have a follow-up on Afghanistan,
Sure.
too. Just given that the embassy is currently closed right now in Kabul as well, if you're an Afghan and you still are hoping to find relief and come to the U.S., is there any way to actually get parole or refugee status without going to a third country?
Well, we have a presence in Doha, one that engages with officials on the ground. We've also had recent meetings with leaders of the Taliban, as you all know, and has been reported publicly. And our State Department is leading this effort. So yes, absolutely there is. We have worked to help individuals who have stood by our side and fought by our side over the course of the last 2 months since we left. We ended our military presence there. We've put out, I know the State Department put out numbers on U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents who have departed from Kabul. We wouldn't be able to do that unless we had the diplomatic presence in Doha and were able to engage with and work with authorities on the ground.